I'm holding the most recent book by Sharon Draper, Just Another Hero. This just came out and it finishes the fabulous Jericho trilogy. She's going to be joining me today and we're going to take a tour through her fabulous books, her series for young children, 8 to 9, 10-year-olds, and the really gritty books that she's written for our high schoolers. That is coming up next on Books Alive. Thank you so much for joining us today on Books Alive, and I have had the pleasure of talking with my guest who's here today for the last hour or so, and it's just been really wonderful, and I can't wait to share her with you. She is a 5-time Coretta Scott Award winner. That's 2 Coretta Scott Kings and 3 honor books. Been to the White House 6 times. She was Teacher of the Year in 1997 and the National Teacher of the Year, and the person I'm talking about is the one and only Sharon Draper. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
This is really wonderful. Okay, now you got taught in Cincinnati.
Yes.
For 25 years, or how long was it?
About 25 years, yes.
Okay.
I taught English, reading, language arts, writing, composition, all of that.
All at the high school level?
Middle school and high school. Our school was a 7 to 12 school, so I taught them from the time they were 7th graders, about 3 feet tall, to the time they were seniors and were ready to leave with beards.
Okay. And you were known for the Draper paper?
The Draper paper. It was only for seniors.
Uh-huh.
And I still get emails from former students that said, I hated you then, but I thank you for making me. Because of that, I went through college and I learned research skills. It was just a paper on research skills.
Uh-huh.
But for seniors, it was a big deal.
Oh, that's really exciting. And what a wonderful tradition.
Right.
That's really great. Now, Sharon, you grew up in a house of readers.
Yes.
So you became a reader. And I read that reading gave you the ability to dream. Do you feel that you were able to give that to your students, and how would you have?
Well, yes, I grew up in a family of readers. I can't remember a time when I didn't have a book in my hand. My mother read to me from the time that I was very, very young. She took me to the library when I was just barely able to walk, and we went every week, and I would get 10 books in it, then get 10 more and 10 more, and it was glorious. By the time I was 10 years old, I'd read everything on the little kid side of the library. I mean, I was a reader, and I think that is part of the reason that I became a writer, although I didn't know it at the time, because I think it's important that a good writer needs to be a good reader and have some information in their head. So when I became a teacher, it was just natural for me to pass along that love of reading to my students. So love of reading, love of words, just the magic of words, poetry, how words fit together on the page. That was part of my passion as a teacher.
And there's a power in that.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a wonderful power. All right, so that's a little bit of your history, just a little bit of it. And you wrote an incredible book that won the Coretta Scott King Award.
Yes.
And what year was that?
That was 2000.
In
Yes,
2000. Okay. All right.
2001 was when the award was given.
When
yes.
you won it. This is Copper Sun. And go ahead and tell us a little bit about this.
Copper Sun is the book of my heart. And it took longer than any of the other books. I can generally write a book in 6 months to a year. This book took 10 years because I had to do research. I went to Africa twice. I had to research every tiny detail. It takes place in 1738, and it originated from my very first trip to Africa when I went to the slave castles, which aren't castles, they're prisons, places where they kept the slaves before they shipped them out. And I went to one of those, and I went to this place called it's called the Door of No Return, where they push them through. And I went through there, and I got chill bumps, and I just knew that I had to tell that story of not the millions of people who had been taken from that continent and brought to another place, but one person. So I focused on one girl. She's 15 years old. What would it be like if everything you know and everything you have ever loved is destroyed, and you only have the strength inside of yourself to make it, and you don't even know if you have strength inside of yourself. You're 15. And so she learns strength, she learns fortitude, she learns survival. She also learns about friendship, because it's a story of deprivation, but it's also a story of friendship and hope and survival. And it ends on a note of hope, not on a note of desperation.
And it's about resilience. It's an incredible story of resilience.
Absolutely.
And that resounds throughout your books. That's what I picked up. Now, when I was doing the research for this interview, I read that your grandfather was a slave.
My grandfather was a slave. I never met him.
Yeah.
Because he was born in 1860, which meant he was born during slavery. And he lived to be a very old man, a ripe old age. And my father was born in 1924. And my grandfather passed away when my father was 12 years old. But he was born as a slave. And so there's something in there that tracks back. So you'd think that slavery was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It was my grandfather.
Yes.
Not my great-great-grandfather.
How does that feel?
It feels awesome to know where we were and where we have come in just 2 generations. My father, the night that President Obama was elected, he cried like a baby. He said, "I can't believe that I'm living to see this."
Yes.
So,
wow.
So it's very, very powerful and very, very personal for me.
And so the family has always looked ahead, forged ahead, valued education, valued reading, and you're a product of that. And look at what you've given us as a result of that.
Well, I've been very blessed.
That's amazing. All right, so that is like early history here. I'm going to fast forward us up to this very powerful book that, thank goodness I found it yesterday, Fire from the Rock. And this is our more modern history because it's Little Rock, Arkansas, and the integration.
Yes. When you think about it, takes place in 1957 when Central High School was integrated in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I remember 1957, but to many of the teachers and all of the students who are reading it, that's ancient history. And it doesn't matter whether it was 1957 or 1857. It was, for them, it's a long time ago. But it deals with a fairly recent period, and it's the same kind of thing. It's that same group of people who struggled and made it and survived from Copper Sun, who are still struggling in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1957. And the main character, again, is a 15-year-old girl who has to make a decision. Should I stay where I'm comfortable with my friends, where things are safe, or should I go and try to make a difference and try to do this integration thing? And there was a lot of opposition from the white community who said, no, we don't want you here. And from the black community says, why do you want to do this? Everything is okay. Don't make waves. So she's in a terrible position, and she has to make these decisions about her life. And when you think about the Little Rock Nine, who actually did do the integration, they didn't do it because they knew that they were going to be famous in 50 years and they were going to get to go to the White House. And they didn't do it for that reason. They didn't do it because they thought they were making history. They did it because what was being offered wasn't right. And they said, it's time to right some wrongs. And they didn't do it for any long-range goals of, I'm going to be famous one day. They did it because it was the right thing to do at that time.
It took incredible courage. As I read back through that, because I didn't remember all the details of it and how the one girl, Elizabeth
Elizabeth Eckford, yes.
Goes to that door and cannot get into the door of the school.
Yes, and she's literally mobbed, and she's alone.
Yes.
She is all by herself.
I thought of the bravery, the courage, the incredible strength that took just to walk up to that door and then to be barred and have to turn back.
And face this huge, hateful crowd.
Yes.
Who was just this close to doing violence against her. I know she had to be terrified. She had to be terrified.
Yeah.
And I have talked to her as an adult, and it changed her. It changed her life that day, changed her life forever.
How?
If you're 15 and you are put upon this horrible fear and terror, and it has got to change you. It's going to make you brave because you survived, but oh my goodness, the memories of what happened on that day will never go away.
So she carries that reality of
sure
how hard it can be.
I'm sure.
And the fear that you can carry.
Yes.
There's a line in there that I remember, I think Sylvia is thinking.
Sylvia,
Sylvia.
Yes.
She's saying that, you know, integration changes something because we don't have the specialness of walking into the schoolyard and it's just us.
Well, you know, that's one reason that the African American community was, some of them were against the integration because there was power. People say, well, it was better because they went to a better school. Not necessarily. They had powerful teachers. Sylvia's teacher in there was a powerful teacher who taught those kids pride and dignity, and you will stand up straight, and you will memorize this poem, and you will graduate, and you will become somebody. And from those segregated schools came all the black doctors, all the black nurses, all the black teachers, all the black professionals, the lawyers. They all came from those segregated schools, and they walked tall and they walked with pride because they had been taught by powerful, powerful teachers. And somehow that pride and that power was lost with integration. So yes, it was negative, but there were some positives there that were lost with integration. So Sylvia is in a terrible quandary of what to do and why she should do it. And, you know, and you try to make it on a personal level. It's like, gee, I'm 15 and this boy likes me. And if I go, I'm going to lose my boyfriend
to that girl.
To that girl. And I'm, you know, and if I go there, I certainly won't have a boyfriend. So it's not just high-minded things. She's 15. It's like, oh my goodness, this is hard. I'm going to lose my boyfriend. So I try to make it so that kids today can identify with her quandary.
I thought of the people that, you know, if they're going to rezone you to a new high school and how upset you get.
Exactly.
And this girl is like, whoa, I mean, major levels of being rezoned. I asked you a question outside, and I said, you know, the history and the determination and the courage of the people of Copper Sun, the determination and the courage of the people in Fire from the Rock, they were looking forward, they were thinking big things, they came from the strengths from within. And at the same time now, we have some children who are not getting it. They don't understand the value of the education, that it's like a gift for them, that they can, that's a pathway that they can take to success. And how would you, as National Teacher of the Year, what advice would you give people to reach them?
When I talk to young people like that, I said, do you know that people suffered and died so that you could skip third bell?
Oh my gosh.
And
does that reach them?
Sometimes.
Okay.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Because teenagers as a whole just think about themselves. And that's part of that world of being. And yes, there are those kids that don't get it, and those kids that have forgotten the suffering that their ancestors and even just their recent relatives did so that they could not take advantage of school. However, I go to lots and lots of schools, and I have found that there is a very large group of young people who do try and who do remember and who do look back and stand proud. I get emails from kids who say things like, my friends make fun of me because I make good grades and I try real hard in school, but I'm not going to stop because I'm going to go to college. And and there are those kids that do that. They love to read. They seek out good books. They do their homework. They work to achieve and to reach a goal. And I think we need to focus on those kids who are trying and who are trying to make it and who do want to go to college. Those are the kids we need to focus on than the kids who won't. We spend so much time trying to bring up the kids that say, I don't care. Let's help those kids who say, I do care. Please help me. I had a girl write to me once and she said, I want to go to college and I don't know how. I don't know what to do. Can you tell me what to do? Nobody in my town has been to college. Can you tell me what to do? She didn't even know step one. So there are those kids, and those are the kids that I'm reaching out to.
Oh, that's phenomenal, and I love your attitude. I mean, it's so positive.
Right.
So much positive energy. And we can all, be part of that team to work with those kids. Okay, let's take a look at your Ziggy books. These were some of the first that you wrote, right?
Right.
Which one came first?
The very first Ziggy book, the blue one there.
Okay.
The Buried Bones Mystery. That was the very first book, and that came out actually at the same time as Tears of a Tiger in 1994.
Okay.
And so I had a book for teenagers and a book for little kids, and nobody knew who I was. And I'm at a book signing, and I said, I have books for your older kids and your younger kids. And said, who is this lady? But Ziggy is for, I guess, ages maybe 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, that reading group. Ziggy and his friends is 4 little boys. They're all African American. They're not bad. They don't get in trouble. They don't skip school. These are good kids who solve mysteries in the neighborhood. They build a clubhouse. They figure out things that are going on in their neighborhood. They're just little boys having fun. And so there are now 6 Ziggy books, and Ziggy and his friends get into multiple kinds of adventures, and they're able to and they learn something in the process, even though I don't think readers realize that they're learning something as they read the book.
Now, you made Ziggy a little bit hilarious because the food he eats is frightening.
If you're in the 3rd grade, the food he eats is cool. He eats corn on the cob covered with peanut butter. He eats broccoli and potato chip sandwiches. So Ziggy, you have to have something that's unique. And kids will ask me, why does Ziggy eat weird foods? I said, you wouldn't remember him if he ate ordinary foods. He has to stand out if you want to make him unique. So Ziggy is full of life. He's irrepressible. He's full of energy. He wants to be a spy for the FBI. So Ziggy is ready to solve all these mysteries. So in the first book, they build a clubhouse in Ziggy's backyard. They dig for treasure. They solve a mystery. In the second book, they go to they find a tunnel in the basement of their school, and they discover that this tunnel was once used by the Underground Railroad. They get trapped in the tunnel. They have to get out because there's a book 3, but they get trapped in the tunnel. And in the process of getting rescued from the tunnel, they have learned just a little bit about the Underground Railroad. So there's a learning curve in every single book. In the 3rd book, they go on a camp out and they learn about Native Americans. In the 4th book, they go to space camp and they learn about science and technology.
And you went to space camp.
I did. I had to do research.
Okay.
I stayed with a bunch of 12-year-olds for a whole week and survived.
Okay.
And
that must have been great.
Oh, it was fun. And they learned the most interesting thing besides gravity and technology and astronauts. How do astronauts poop in space? And so kids are always interested in that, and it's gross and disgusting, and of course they
I learned.
That. Yeah.
I had never heard of Mr. Thirsty.
Yes. Yes, we're not going to go into exactly what Mr. Thirsty is.
I have a feeling the cameramen are going to go for those books when we saw.
Yeah, and find out who Mr. Thirsty is. So book 5, the learning curve is also science, but it's more biology and ecology. They find a baby deer and they bring it home, and then they try to hide it in Ziggy's bedroom, which of course they're not able to do. And book 6 focuses on art and music and performance and singing and dancing and the importance of music and art in a child's life.
Oh, how wonderful.
Sometimes we eliminate that. It's the first thing that gets cut when you're making school cuts, and it's the most important thing because it makes a well-rounded child.
Well, there aren't that many books out there, in my experience, that have African American boys at this age. So this is such a wonderful gift to us all, because now when they come in and they're looking for something and it's not Walter Dean Myers yet, you know,
Right.
then I've got something to hand them. So
Right. It's
she
right
also
on the 3rd grade
has,
level.
Yes. She has a wonderful new series for girls about the same age, and those are the Sassy books. Sassy's about 9. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at those and also her wonderful trilogies that are so just gritty and perfect for our teenagers. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Yeah. That's it.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. When you adopt a child from foster care, just being there makes all the difference.
Yo, check out this chef, right? Right? That's so gay. That's really gay. Dude, look at those pants.
Please don't say that.
What?
Don't say that something is gay when you mean that something is dumb or stupid. It's insulting. It's like if I thought this pepper shaker was stupid and I said, man, and this pepper shaker is so 16-year-old boy with a cheesy mustache. Just saying. When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off.
Good nutrition can lead to great things. Find out how a healthy lifestyle can help your child succeed.
Exactly. That's my
was
Nikki
great.
story.
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, I have the delight of being in the studio today with the wonderful Sharon Draper. Thank you again for being here.
My pleasure.
And we've been talking about her Coretta Scott King Award-winning books, Copper's Son. We talked about Fire from the Rock and her Ziggy books. And we were just going to start talking about her brand new, really, Sassy books, which are, it's a new series written for 9-year-olds. Okay, you were telling me that this is somebody in the family.
Well, it's not. Sassy is based sort of on my granddaughter. I have several grandchildren, but only one granddaughter. And so she's kind of special and spoiled. And she is sassy, and she likes the sparkly things, and she likes the lip gloss. But Sassy is her own person. Sassy is this very unique little girl. She's the youngest in the family. She doesn't get any attention from the rest of her family. And so many girls have written to me and said, it's just like in my house. I can't get any respect. And the family all calls her little sister. Little sister, will you do this? Little sister, will you? And she said, will you please just call me by my name? So the subtitle is Little Sister is Not My Name. And so she fights for respect in the family. And at the end of the story, her family gets stuck in an elevator. And they can't get out. There's been a power outage, and the family is stuck. Her brother has to go to the bathroom, and nobody can fit through the little hole that the elevator has left except for Sassy. And so she wiggles through and gets help and rescues her family and lets her brother go to the bathroom before he explodes. and the newspaper does a report on her. And the headline says, Little Sister Saves the Family. So she can't win.
She's doomed.
But she has learned, she's gotten lots of respect. And she's learned something about herself. She's learned something about family. Oh, I must tell you, Sassy carries this wonderful, purple, glorious Sassy sack that her grandmother made for her.
Yes.
And she carries it everywhere. And so she And in it is just, it's not magical things, but it's just necessary things. Pencils and pens and paper clips and ribbons and whatever you need, Sassy has it in her bag. If you are out of something, if you cut your finger and you need a Band-Aid, Sassy has one. Do you want a pink one or a green one? So she carries this everywhere, and it helps save the day throughout the various stories.
Yes. She reminded me a little bit of Mary Poppins there with everything in that bag.
Everything in that bag.
But I also thought to myself, I think her Grammy says to her that your style and your flair are within.
Yes.
Not without, because she always has to wear the school uniform. But I also thought to myself, you know, a little bit with her bag, I mean, she's got the lifesavers to give the little boy whose head's stuck in the desk and, and the battery for the mic and everything.
Yes.
But I thought she's learning about what she carries within herself,
yes,
as well as what she always has ready in her bag.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty cool. So again, you know, it's a great series, and if you've got a daughter like around the third, fourth grade level,
fourth grade,
they are really fun, and it's Goonie Bird Green kind of stuff because she's very much her own girl.
Yes, she is very much her own personality.
All right, we're going to take it up just a little bit here. Just in age, what age would you say Double Dutch is
Double
for?
Dutch, the kids in the story are middle school, so that makes the readership 6th grade, 5th grade, maybe even 4th grade. It's a good chapter book for 4th graders. It's not as intense as some of my other books. It's a little bit milder. The main character is a girl named Delia who can't read, and her parents don't know, her teachers don't know, and people say, is that possible? Kids know how to fake it. They know how to get by through school. And she's really, really struggling with reading, and nobody really knows it because she's smart. She has a good memory. She can tell the teacher what she said. She just can't read it. And so this standardized test is coming at her, and she knows she has to read for the standardized test, and she doesn't know what to do. And so there are a number of double things that put her in Dutch. There's a number of double things throughout the story that kind of, she's on a double Dutch team. There's a tornado, and it's a twin tornado. The two bad guys are the two guys in school who are like the school bullies, and they're twins. So the double Dutch is kind of follows through.
It was interesting to have that little part about the Tolliver twins, these very, very intimidating young men who I was intimidated by just reading it, and to find out the fear that they carried from the storm that they had gone through, you know, as a family.
I like to go through things where the bad guy has a backstory, and there's a reason why he's the bad guy, and everybody is afraid of him, but nobody stops to find out why they act the way they do.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Now, you've got Yolanda in here, and she's quite a character.
Yo-Yo cannot tell the truth to save her life.
Yes, and she's hilarious. And then you have Randy.
Randy is big and strong and tough and scared to death. But because he's big and strong and tough, he can't admit that he's scared to death. His father is missing, and he's afraid to tell people. So he's living alone, goes home to an empty house every single day, hoping that his father will come home.
Some of your characters are taking on such adult roles and responsibilities, and it's a survival kind of level that they're living on.
Many young people that I meet are doing this. When I was that age, life was pretty easy for me. My mom and dad took care of me. But many, many kids have very adult responsibilities, and they identify with these kids because they say, it's rough for me too.
Oh, it's wonderful that you can mirror them, and they can get that feeling of somebody sees, somebody understands what I'm going through.
I get emails all the time from young people that say, you write about my life.
Wow, that is incredibly powerful. All right, now I'm saving some of what I consider the best for last here. This is the Hazelwood trilogy, and it kicks off with Tears of a Tiger. And this one just gets you. You got to have your tissue box ready for this one.
Tears of a Tiger was the very first book, and it is still required reading in schools all over the country.
Wow.
And it's been out since '94. And first page is first chapter is 1 page long, and the first sentence, someone is killed in a drinking and driving accident. teen basketball star killed in fiery crash. Robert Washington, age 17, captain of the Hazelwood basketball team, was killed last night in a fiery automobile accident on I-75. That's the first sentence. If you are a reluctant reader, it's like, oh, wow, that sounds good. You have to grab them. When I was teaching, I told my kids, make your first sentence of anything you write for me be powerful so it grabs me. So that's what I did. And it grabs young people. And the first chapter is just one page. My goodness, it's an accident. What's he going to do? And the driver of the car, Andy, is the young man that has to deal with the consequences of this accident in chapter 1. So it was I didn't know what I was doing. I was still teaching. I didn't know how to write a book. But it was so successful, they asked me to write a sequel. So the sequel is called Forged by Fire. And it deals with a minor character in Tears of a Tiger who continues on. There's an interesting story with that. Chapter 1 of Forged by Fire was originally a short story. The very first thing I ever wrote in life was a short story. I entered this contest and I won first prize in the contest. And I hadn't written anything. That was like 10 years before even Tears of a Tiger came out. And the story was so good. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I made that story, chapter 1.
Is that when the student challenged you?
That was the student who said, why don't you write something sometime?
Yeah.
So I wrote the story and won. I mean, I've never won anything in my life, and I won first prize.
Wow.
And so it was several years after that, after Tears of a Tiger, I wanted to use that story. So the chapter 1's about child abuse. It's about a little boy in a grocery store whose mother is verbally abusing him, and she takes him home and continues the physical abuse. And so the boy in Tears of a Tiger, who is a minor character who's abused in the story, this is his story. This is Gerald's story, and this is the story of finding strength through an abusive situation, finding an answer, finding a solution. In the back of the book, I put the national toll-free hotline for the National Child Abuse Hotline. And I've had kids write to me and say, I read your book, I call that number, you saved my life. So
there it is right there.
So the phone number is in there, and they have used it. And they get something from it. And it's had a powerful effect on probably young people that I will never meet and never know.
There's an adult that Gerald is able to turn to in here, and I think it's Robbie Washington's father.
Yes.
Robbie Washington is the character who was killed in book 1 in the drunken driving accident.
Yes.
And so now Gerald, who was also in the car, he's going to turn to Robbie's father when he needs help.
Yes.
Because there's some serious abuse taking place in his family, and he's got to get help.
Well, you have to find a way when you're writing fiction for your characters to be rescued, for your characters to find help. You know, if I was writing a book about alpine skiers, I would have to put in a dog, you know. But this is the, so there has to be a means for the fictional character to find help. And I try to tell young people also that there's got to be an adult in the community that you can trust that will make a difference, that you can go to and tell your problems to. There's always an adult. And kids write to me and say, I'm in a situation like that. I say, find an adult in your community. You know, a pastor, a teacher, a counselor, your best friend's mom. Tell somebody, an adult, and there's somebody who will help you.
Yeah. And it's the resilience, it's the hope, and it's also really the story of how when something traumatic happens like that, many lives are affected.
Exactly.
And it's the ripples that go out. Okay, here, Darkness Before Dawn.
It's the third one. And that is the conclusion of the story. And the main character in that one is Keisha, who's Andy's girlfriend in the first book. And it actually continues the story. The first two kind of meet in the middle. And this one takes the third one and takes the kids to graduation. And she has to deal with her own trauma. How do you deal with the loss of your boyfriend? How do you move on? and she has her own set of problems that she has to deal with and she has to cope with before she can stand before her peers at graduation and say, we have survived and we're ready to move on.
So in the course of just the books we've looked at so far, you've dealt with drunken driving, you've dealt with incest, you've dealt with domestic violence, you've dealt with suicide. I mean, and I'll tell you, one of the things I loved about your books is that they move. They just pop right along. And I think reluctant readers or kids who are like, you know, like book, if they pick one of yours up, they're going to get hooked and they're going to fly right through them.
I try, and I have a very good editor who makes sure that they move quickly when I get bogged down. A good writer needs to give acclaim to their editors, because you write something and your editor says, you need to cut the last 3 pages of chapter 4. It really isn't necessary. So when you say the books just zip along, it's because my editor has said, let's cut this so this book will zip along. So my editor's name is Caitlin Delawi, and hi Caitlin.
Hi Caitlin. Good job.
She really is. She's one of the best in the business, and I give her credit because she helps me see things that I can't see because I'm too involved with the story. Oh no, I have to go on and I have to tell every single detail and I have to show how she takes a shower and takes a bath and then gets dressed. Just get her out the door. So.
All right, now we're going to pick up the fabulous Jericho trilogy. This is the Battle of Jericho, and you took on one heck of an issue in this one.
Well, there was an article just recently that came out in the paper about hazing at a high school. And it's amazing what young people will do to be accepted. And it's also amazing to me what administrators at a school will allow, because it always has been this way. It's just good, clean fun. But in the story, anything that makes a character feel less than himself, that's hazing. If you are forced to do something that you don't want to do and it makes you feel bad about yourself, that's hazing. So Jericho's asked to join this really cool club, and if I get in this club, I get this cool girl, and I get all these things, and I get this black leather jacket. And he's asked to do things, and there's 5 nights of initiation into this club, and every night is worse than the one before, and every night he has to make decisions. And young people make decisions all the time, and Jericho, not like everybody, but Jericho makes stupid decisions every single night. And because of the decisions that they make, there's tragedy at the end. So it's all about, you know, making decisions and peer pressure and do I stand up for myself? And it's so hard when you're 16 to stand up against a popular group and be yourself. It is almost impossible. And so that's why Jericho gets himself in so much trouble in the story.
I thought the shoplifting I thought was very realistic, and I wondered how many kids would be able to stand up to a peer and say, no, I'm not going to do that. And also when you had him talking about how a rose is beautiful, but a rose has thorns.
Yes.
And the ornaments that they're going to steal are going to go on that tree, and the orphans are going to love that tree, but they've still stolen the ornaments.
Yes.
And you have all of this sort of ambivalence and the grayness of it.
Of moral decisions.
Black and white.
I try not to be moralistic with kids. I don't want to say, thou shalt not do that. I just put it out there. I let the characters do it, and then I decide, you know, I let the characters decide and let the reader decide, that was dumb.
Yeah.
Or, wow, I wouldn't have done that.
Or put yourself in their shoes, and how would you handle it?
Right.
You know, would you have that strength within that they had in Copper Sun, or they had in, you know, Fire from the Rock, to do what is right?
Exactly.
I mean,
that's
tough.
A girl who wrote to me, and she said, I like your books because they show me how not to do dumb stuff.
Well, they're almost like little role models, you know, or little courses or something. Okay, book 2 in the Jericho trilogy is November Blues. And this one, you dealt with teen pregnancy.
Yes. I get so many letters from kids over the years. You ought to write something about teen pregnancy. And it was very hard for me to do that because I didn't want to deal with sexuality. So she's already pregnant when the story starts, so I have to deal with that. But I wanted to talk about the issues of what it's like and the difficulties. Girls a lot of times say, oh, that'll be fun, that'll be nice, but it's not fun, and it's not nice, and it's very uncomfortable, and there's so much that she cannot participate in school, and the difficulties, and suppose the baby is not pink and perfect. Suppose there are problems, and these things happen, and I wanted kids to think before they make decisions. Again, I'm not trying to be moralistic. I'm trying to say this character made these decisions, and look at this. She lost her college scholarship. She lost the respect of her mother. She lost her childhood.
Exactly.
And without being preachy about it, just saying this is what happened to her, and you can get what you want from it. So.
And when she's on the bus in that one scene, she's thinking, this isn't fair. And you're thinking to yourself, but wait a minute, no one did this to you.
You're right.
It was a mistake. And in your mind, you may not have thought it was a mistake, but for now, it's a mistake.
Right.
And you're going to have to make the most of it.
Yeah. Kids are very, teenagers are very, very apt to say, this isn't fair. And it's like, you make your own decisions, and then you have to live with them.
The consequences are what follow.
Exactly.
Yes. All right. Just Another Hero.
This is book 3 in the Jericho trilogy, and it's just recently out. And this one takes, and these 3 go in chronological order. So it's each one begins 2 months after the next one, the previous one ended. And in this one, I deal with school violence. And ever since Columbine, I've said, I've got to do something about this. But I couldn't write a book about killing people in a school. I just couldn't do that. But I wanted to bring up the issues of school violence and what do we do? Most schools now have security. They have metal detectors. You know, suppose somebody gets through all that security. What do we do if there's violence in the school? How do we cope? How do the principals cope? How do the kids cope? What do you do with school violence? So I left it wide open for discussion. It also talks about heroism. What's a hero? Is a hero the football player? Is a hero, can a hero be a girl? You know, can a hero be a little geeky guy that, you know, likes computers? Is there, you know, who is the hero? And at the end, I leave the question kind of in the air. She whispers the answer to that question to the spring air. I said, oh, wow, what a good way to end it.
Yeah. You left us all there. Well, I loved the scene. I can't say I loved the scene, but the opening scene is so powerful, where that boy is being abused by those other kids, and he is a weakling. He looks like a weakling, but he turns out to be such a strong human being.
Yes.
And I loved how Crazy Jack had been lurking in those other books.
Yes.
And we didn't know he was going to follow this path to this place.
And he finds out. So Crazy Jack was in both the first 2 books as a very, very minor character. And Crazy Jack, he has issues, but the kids understand that.
Yes.
And they say, don't hurt him.
Yeah, they can accept him as who he is.
He's got issues.
Yeah.
He's okay. We understand this. He's got issues. He needs help.
And then Kofi, who you have loved, and all of a sudden, and he gets, well, maybe I shouldn't say.
Well, he gets hooked on prescription drugs.
Yeah.
And he has a very strong girlfriend. I like to have strong girls who says, oh, no, I'm flushing these down the toilet. We are not going to have that. We are going to college. And sometimes kids don't have parents that will help them. And they need the strength of a girlfriend or a boyfriend that says, no, we will get through this. And so I give Dana the power to help him and hold his hand and get him through those difficulties.
Dana is an awesome character. I loved her. I really did. All right. Now, if people want more information about this fabulous collection of books we have here, do you have a website they can go to?
I do. It is SharonDraper.com. Very easy. No dots, no dashes. Just SharonDraper.com.
Okay.
And I have information on every single book. I also have study guides for every single book. All of them. Just click on study guides and there it is.
All right.
Download them. They're yours.
And you've got a new book coming out?
I have a new book coming. It's called out of my mind, and it is powerful. I think it's the best thing I've ever done.
That's so exciting.
I'm
I
very
got to
excited
read
about
the
it.
first chapter a little while ago, and it made me cry, just to give you a sense of this. March?
March.
March. All right, so you can look forward to that one. All right, now I have some news to share here. abookandahug.com, my new website, has launched, and I'd love to have you all visit it. If you'll get all of Sharon Draper's books right there. You know, if there was some that we talked about and you were like, what was the title of that or something, you can go right on to abookandahug.com, and they will all be there, and you can take a look at them. And thank you so much for being here
Thank
today.
you. This was absolutely delightful.
You have given us such gifts here, and as always, come see us at the library.